Welcome to Neural Nexus Podcast, where we explore the hottest topics shaping the world. Let's dive in.
All right, so 25 hours. That's how long Senator Cory Booker held the Senate floor. I mean, you got to admit, that's the kind of thing that really gets people's attention.
Yeah, definitely. It's not every day you see that kind of political move.
Nope, not at all. And that's exactly what we're going to be looking at today. This wasn't just, business as usual in Washington. This was a very calculated move aimed squarely at Dan Bishop, President Trump's pick for Attorney General.
Oh, yeah, it should. Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we've been going through all the news coverage, all the analysis, really trying to get to the bottom of this whole thing.
I see.
Our mission today. Well, we want to figure out the key takeaways from Booker's marathon speech, why it caused such a stir, and what it all might mean going forward.
Makes sense.
So to kick things off, we need to set the scene, right? This didn't just come out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
The clock started ticking at 10 a.m. on March 24th.
Okay.
Booker steps up to the mic, and his target is crystal clear. Dan Bishop. Now, for those who might not know, Bishop's a conservative Republican, hails from North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
He's known for, the reports paint him as someone who's really big on tough sentencing, and he's been a vocal supporter of President Trump's stance on the whole 2020 election thing.
Right. And that's really at the heart of the Democrats' concerns, especially Booker's.
Yeah.
Their worry, based on everything I've read, is that putting Bishop in charge of the Justice Department could undo a lot of progress on civil rights.
Mm-hmm.
And they see him as a sign that things are going to get tougher on issues like immigration, tax cuts, especially with Trump pushing a hardline agenda for his second term.
It's definitely a lot to unpack.
Oh, for sure.
Now, Booker's weapon of choice here, a good old-fashioned filibuster.
Classic move.
Basically, you just talk and talk and talk to block a vote from happening. The goal here, buy some time, stall the confirmation, and try to rally opposition against Bishop, both from the public and from other politicians. And Booker kept at it for a full 25 hours. He finally wrapped up at 11 a.m. the next day, March 25th.
Wow, that's a long time to be talking.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It shows you how deeply he felt about this.
Right.
So it wasn't just for show, right?
It seems like much more than that.
Okay, so why was Bishop's nomination such a big deal in the first place? This wasn't just some personal squabble, right?
Well, one of the really interesting things here is how Bishop's views line up with the potential changes we could see at the Justice Department.
Right.
I mean, he's been vocal about his support for things like stricter voter ID laws. He's pushed back against federal efforts on police reform. And he's been a strong supporter of President Trump's immigration policies. If he takes over as AG, it could mean a pretty significant shift in how the Justice Department operates.
Interesting. And for Booker, this seems to hit pretty close to home, right?
It does.
The reports really emphasize his longstanding commitment to criminal justice reform and racial equity. It's like he's seen these issues firsthand, especially back when he was mayor of Newark.
I can see that.
He sees Bishop leading the Justice Department as a direct threat to those communities. Yeah. The ones that have been hit hardest by the very policies Bishop supports. It's like this speech was a very public way for him to stand up for what he believes in.
It's definitely more than just politics as usual.
No, it's not. So 25 hours. What did he actually talk about for that long? I mean, it wasn't just random thoughts, was it?
From what I've gathered, he had a pretty clear structure.
Okay.
Booker really dug into Bishop's record, all his votes, all his statements, and he laid out these arguments about how Bishop's policies could lead to more people ending up in prison, especially people of color. One thing that really stood out was when he mentioned that statistic about 1 in 3 Black men facing the possibility of spending their whole lives behind bars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty sobering thought.
It is. But it wasn't all just policy talk, right?
No, not at all.
The reports talked about how he made it personal, too.
That's right.
He talked about how his own parents had faced housing discrimination years ago, and he shared stories about people he's met through the years, people who were wrongly convicted, single mothers struggling with the system, kids growing up in tough neighborhoods. Those kinds of stories really brought the whole thing to life.
Absolutely. It's like those personal stories give it a weight that you just don't get from statistics.
Yeah.
And he didn't shy away from using powerful references either. He quoted Martin Luther King Jr., Frederick Douglass, even threw in a Bruce Springsteen lyric.
Wow.
I think he was trying to connect with people on a deeper level, show them the historical context of what he was talking about.
So did his voice get all messed up after talking for so long?
Oh, yeah. The reports said that by hour 15, his voice was already getting hoarse. But he kept going, kept walking the floor, kept talking. It really shows how determined he was.
Right. And of course, certain parts of the speech went super viral.
Yeah, those were the moments that really captured people's attention.
I read that one of the biggest ones was around 2 a.m. when he started reading letters from people who had been wrongly convicted.
That's right.
And that line, "Justice delayed is justice denied, and Dan Bishop delays it for millions." That seemed to really hit a nerve online.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
And then, as the sun was coming up, he talked about how Bishop's views on immigration aligned with Trump's deportation policies, even called them a pipeline to pain. That got a huge reaction, too.
I bet social media was buzzing.
Oh, yeah. Hashtag Corey's25 was trending everywhere. And the interesting thing is, even some people who might have been skeptical at first, they had to admit one person holding the floor for that long, it's a pretty big deal. It wasn't just a show. It was a statement.
I mean, just the visual of it. One guy standing there for that long, it really makes you stop and think.
It does. Now, of course, President Trump had something to say about all this.
As you might expect.
Oh, yeah. Around 6 a.m., while Booker was still going strong, Trump posted on Truth Social, calling it a pathetic stunt by sleepy Cory and a waste of taxpayer money.
It's not surprising.
And he didn't stop there. Once Booker finished his 25 hours, Trump held a press conference at Mar-a-Lago and doubled down, calling Bishop the best AG pick in history, and even saying that he could talk for 50 hours and do it better.
But some people are saying that by reacting so strongly, Trump might have actually played right into Booker's hands.
How so?
Well, by engaging so directly, he kept the story in the headlines, kept people talking about it.
Oh, I see.
And some commentators, both on CNN and Fox, were saying that Trump seemed kind of rattled by the whole thing, which isn't the image of strength he usually tries to project.
So maybe it backfired a little bit.
It's possible. And as news of the speech spread, people started weighing in. And as you can imagine, opinions were pretty divided.
So what was the reaction like?
Well, in places like California, Illinois, the more liberal areas, Booker was mostly praised. Some even called him the conscience of the Senate.
Wow.
Yeah, social media in those circles was very supportive.
But I'm guessing it wasn't all sunshine and roses.
Right. No, not in more conservative states like Georgia and Oklahoma.
Okay.
They mostly saw it as a political stunt, called it grandstanding, a liberal meltdown, things like that.
Makes sense.
But even those folks, they couldn't completely ignore the fact that he stood there for 25 hours straight.
It's a pretty striking image.
Right. So the big question is, did all this actually achieve anything?
Good question. What were the concrete results?
Well, the first thing was the Senate vote on Bishop, which was supposed to happen on March 26th, got pushed back to April 8th.
Okay, so they bought some time.
Exactly. And it seems like the Democrats have been using that time to try to sway some opinions.
How so?
They've been digging up old speeches and statements from Bishop that have raised some eyebrows, hoping to turn people against him.
Smart move.
Bloomberg Opinion even called it a tactical victory for Booker.
Not bad.
And even more significantly, polls show that public opinion shifted after the speech.
Really?
Yeah, before the speech, 42% of Americans said they wanted a closer look at Bishop. After the speech, that number jumped to 55%.
That's a pretty big jump.
It is. It shows that Booker's efforts raised awareness and got people thinking.
Interesting. But it wasn't just about delaying the vote or changing people's minds.
Were there other things happening, too?
Like what?
Well, online petitions started gaining tons of signatures. There were protests at Senate offices, and grassroots groups were popping up with slogans like justice over loyalty.
So even though Bishop could still get confirmed, things are definitely tougher for him now.
Definitely. The administration is on the defensive now.
But all that talking, all that time on his feet, it must have taken a toll on Booker, right?
Oh, yeah. They said he looked exhausted afterward. His voice was hoarse. His eyes were red.
Understandably so.
He reportedly slept for 14 hours straight and even missed a vote on a spending bill.
I bet it caused some controversy.
It did. Some people accused him of being all talk, no action. But his team defended him, saying that what was at stake with Bishop's nomination was just too important.
It's a tough situation.
It is. So this brings us to something I think is really important for you, the listener, to consider.
Yes, that.
This wasn't just some political drama for entertainment. Who's in charge of the Justice Department has real-world consequences for people.
That's true.
If Bishop gets confirmed, and he's made his views pretty clear, it could mean stricter policing, more deportations, and fewer reforms.
So how does this affect everyday people?
Well, the reports talk about examples like a police officer in Ohio, an activist in Oregon, a parent in Florida who's worried about their kid's future.
Right.
These are the people whose lives could be directly affected by what the Justice Department does.
It's a big deal.
And Booker's speech, even if you don't agree with everything he said, it shows that one person can make a difference.
Yeah, that's important.
In a country as big as ours, it's easy to feel like your voice doesn't matter, but Booker showed that one determined person can grab the nation's attention and shake things up.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners?
Well, it's a reminder that we all have a role to play, whether it's contacting our representatives, getting involved in our communities, or just voting.
Right. So let's zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
This speech happened in the context of Trump's second term, right?
Exactly. Trump's back in office, and he's pushing his agenda, more deportations, big tax cuts, and he's carefully choosing who he puts in key positions.
No.
Booker's filibuster is just one part of a bigger pushback against all that.
Okay.
It's like a resistance, with people organizing town halls, filing lawsuits, and doing whatever they can to fight back.
The stakes are high.
They are. And there's no more talk of a honeymoon period for the new administration. It's full-on political warfare.
And for Booker himself, what does this mean for his future?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but doing something this big, especially since he's already run for president, it could be a turning point for him. Some people are even saying it could set him up for a run in 2028.
Interesting.
But, to really succeed in politics, you need more than just big moments like this.
What else do you need?
Well, you need to show results. You need to be a consistent leader. Voters want to see that.
Makes sense.
Right.
But right now, Booker's definitely one of the loudest voices in the Democratic Party challenging Trump.
Definitely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's go back to that main event. Booker's 25-hour speech.
Yep.
He managed to delay a key vote. He brought attention to some really important issues. And he definitely got under Trump's skin.
No doubt about it.
And it leaves us with some big questions.
Like what?
Was this just a political tactic, or was it something more? And what does it all mean for our justice system, for how we participate in politics?
Those are important questions.
They are. And I'll leave you with one more thing to think about.
Okay, I'm listening.
In our current political climate, how can we make our voices heard? How can we shape the conversation and influence what happens in our country? What can you do to make a difference?
Those are good questions for all of us to consider.
Absolutely.
And that's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.